I am Beverly, Swanee's daughter. Well, my husband, Ro Hatlen, has had many good ideas in his lifetime, but none as surprising as the one he sprung on us on Mother's Day. Oh, sweetheart. It's our granddaughter. That he sprung on us on Mother's Day, 1994. Ro all of a sudden said, "Swanee, I think this is the year we should take you and all of your siblings to Madagascar." Well, Mother nearly fainted. And then came the questions. When Ro said he was serious, Mother had the biggest smile on her face and gleam in her eye. By the next day, all 6 siblings and their spouses were signed up and excited to return to the country they loved and the home where they were born and raised. In the end, 3 cousins also signed up, so we were a group of 15. To create reality, in stepped Suzanne Jacobson Zapolsky, who grew up there and had her own travel agency. Dr. Stan and Kathy Quanbeck, who at the time were medical missionaries in Madagascar, signed up as our guides for the entire 2 weeks we'd be there. We first flew into the capital city of Tananarivo, or Tana, and were shocked at the poverty and third worldness of the city, but were delighted with the wonderful, friendly, and smiling people. After a couple of days, we flew south to Fort Dauphin, the southeastern part of Madagascar, where Mother and her siblings were born. When we landed, our Uncle Ivan got on his hands and knees and kissed the tarmac in honor of his wife, Borgie, and, as he told Ro later, in thankfulness for having survived the plane ride. In reality, we felt we were on sanctified ground. When we arrived at our hotel, it was getting to be dusk, but nothing could stop our intrepid elders from marching right over to the church where they had been baptized and confirmed, and then on to the dormitory where, starting at age 6, they spent 9 months of the year at age 6. At the dorm, Mother and her siblings flitted from room to room, remembering everything. And then the stories in Malagasy language flowed out of the recesses of their minds. Lots of laughter and stories of the Vimmen Verkers, the Norwegian VVs, they were called, who in effect were their parents for 9 months of the year. As we watched them, Ro and I were sure we were in for an all-night dorm party. Then on to Munambaro Hospital, where Grandpa had done so much ministry. We still marveled at the level of care given in such impoverished circumstances. On surgery days with one small generator, if they wanted lights, everything else had to be shut down. They were making their own IV saline solutions and doing lab work without decent equipment and carrying on under difficult circumstances, and yet medicine was being practiced at a very high level. We left with a list of the top 15 things they needed, which the extended Fairberg family responded to on our return to the U.S. The one entire day we spent at Lebanon was a true highlight for Mother. Lebanon was where all the missionary families would gather for 2 to 3 months, January through March, so the men could set goals and plan their coming year, and so the mothers could provide some much-needed tenderness and love for their children, and also so they could make all necessary clothes for the next year for their families. Lebanon is a large property on a promontory overlooking the ocean and a swimming bay, a property that would be worth millions in California. We spent the day visiting every cottage to see where each sibling and friend had been born and lived, and by late afternoon gathered on a porch. The elders were calling out, "Oh, should we sit on Broughton's porch tonight or Carlson's porch?" And we listened to the wind going through the philao trees, watched the incredible tropical sunset, and we relished watching Mother and her siblings reliving bygone days. As you can imagine, it was the trip of a lifetime, and no doubt the most significant trip we will ever take. We were privileged to experience the siblings' fun and teasing and their goodwill and strong faith. Since then, I have had the opportunity to reflect on this trip many times. It gave me an appreciation for Mother and a wonderful insight about the family legacy she passed on to us, which we now share with our family. As a Lutheran pastor's daughter, I, of course, have three themes that define Mother to me: faith, frugality, and family. Faith. Her faith was not just something pulled out on Sundays, but it was rather the way she lived and who she was. From the time I was little, I can remember Mother up by 5 a.m., having her devotions and quiet time. She told me that her mother had done that, and that Mother realized early on how much she also needed Bible study, prayer, and quiet to start her day. Mother also used law and gospel, or as I saw it, law for my three brothers and gospel for me. Every week, all of our household chores had to be done by Saturday noon, and all of our homework done by Saturday night. And then, after Sunday church and dinner, it was gospel. We were free to do whatever. Frugality. Frugality of time and resources was another tenet of Madagascar life. Mother learned, for instance, that you never wasted food. How could you when you saw starving people every day? So Mother used her time wisely. She would say, well, you can control your day, or your day will control you. When Mother cooked, she would spend an entire day in the kitchen making meat dishes, then another day making breads, and another for salads and desserts, and would have her freezer full. And yes, my dad did have a habit of bringing home guests unannounced. Mother also made planned overs, or 2 meals at a time, as that gave her time on the odd days to read or to do her beautiful hardanger stitchery work. She was an excellent seamstress and made lots of our clothes. She learned from her mother, Elise, who would make all the family's clothes, including Grandpa's suits, when they were on the mission field for 7 years at a time. At the end of the week, her balance brought forward meal was a constant surprise. It consisted of uneaten morsels stored in a Tupperware container in the freezer and repackaged into a meal like only she could make. As a home ec major, and this became a family story, when she went to St. Olaf, she could speak 4 languages: French, Norwegian, Malagasy, and English, and they advised her to go into home ec, a sign of the 1930s. Anyway, as a home ec major, she made sure that we had balanced meals every day, protein at every meal, 3 colors of vegetables at dinner, something smooth and something crunchy. Pop and chips were a luxury. Sunday evening was her meal day off, and a time when the boys got to show off their culinary skills with peanut butter sandwiches. Family. Because Mother was a middle child, she always said she had it easy in comparison to her oldest sister, Betty, that she hadn't been left alone at the dormitory, but had older and younger siblings to cushion her. Her Malagasy and missionary friends also became family to her, and even today, I can see in this chapel that those ties are strong. The Tverberg Six, plus their parents, crave being together once they were all in the States. Beginning in 1949, when I was 5, the first Tverberg family reunion was held for a week at a Bible camp, and thereafter every 2 years. Eventually, there were 29 first cousins, and you can imagine the fun we had and all the laughter of the 12 parents and our grandparents. For Mother, there was nothing better. Today, we're still getting together every 3 years now with all 204 descendants of Grandpa and Grandma invited, and this year we will again be at St. Olaf College for a long weekend. Because Mother pined so much for a close family life, she made it happen. Dad usually traveled for the church and was gone, but our dinner table every night was full of laughter, mainly because every day we 4 kids were to look for the funniest thing that happened that day. I remain convinced that for my brothers, some of the truth got stretched. I'm looking at Mark. Dad was a prolific letter writer, and Mother would also read his long letters at dinner time. So we ended up knowing what the theological issues of the day were and which meetings Dad was a part of and why. Mother loved people, and she and Dad maintained more friendships than most of us can comprehend. Mother also had a sense of humor and loved a good joke, which she would write down and repeat to everyone to hear folks laugh. And she had a quick retort. After one of the recent presidential elections, I called her and she sounded a bit subdued. I asked, "Well, how was she? Are you happy?" And she said, "Well, how can I be when I raised all Democrats?" And then came her big laugh. As her health was going downhill, not her brain, but her body, we talked about the big party we'd be having for her memorial service, after she turned 100, of course, that I was sure we'd have Malagasy singing her favorite hymns and a Norwegian coffee at the end. I shared a Garrison Keillor quote, which she thought was funny. As Garrison would say about a typical funeral, "What a party, and to think he only missed it by 3 days." So today I'm saying, what a party, and to think Swanee only missed it by a few weeks. She would have loved this. Well, to finish up the Madagascar portion of this service, our friends with the Global Health Ministries Avia project, which is Anushi Villages in Action, Andri and Baku Renivasan will sing the Easter hymn, Ifa Namangi, which was Mom's favorite. Then the Madagascar contingent will sing the first verse of Blessed Assurance in Malagasy, and the congregation will join in singing English for the 3rd verse. And finally, Pastor Oliver Carlson, Mother's friend growing up and her brother Miltzo's best friend growing up, will pray in Malagasy. The singing and this prayer are also for Mother's only remaining sister, Dagny, who at age 91 is too ill in Beersford, South Dakota to be here, but who will receive a copy of the video we're having made. Thank you for coming.